All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Oh, welcome to Chicago Junction, the radio program that is all about the amazing world of railroading, both the many facets of the industry and model railroading. I am your announcer, Brian Ballou, and here is our boss, the head of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, and Chief Electrical Engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Bri. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Monday, November the 13th, the year 2017. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now to start today's broadcast, here is our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Oh, thank you, John. And I will be setting in as host as our chief dispatcher, Mr. Jack Red Ryan, is still waylaid. So we will try to keep the chaos to a minimum.
I think he's been bad ordered.
Yeah, that blue fag's been up for a little bit.
They sent him back to the depot for a major rebuild.
No, he's on the RIP track.
Yeah.
And we're wondering about the RIP.
Yeah.
Heard that.
And my name's Brian Ballou. I am a model railroader in both O gauge and large scale. I belong to the member of the Heston Steam Museum, and also the Reading Company Technical and Historical Society. Also a director of the Chicago chapter NRHS. And all around punching bag for everybody else. And on my left, I've got Dave DeRuska here.
Hi, Dave DeRuska, retired locomotive engineer and vice president and program director for my NRHS chapter, the Blackhawk chapter. And also I'd have a blog called Player with Railroads. I do our Facebook page, Chicago Junction. And, I'm a punching bag, too, but not for as many people as Brian is.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Berry. I'm a retired Chicago police sergeant, a director of the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, and a lifelong Lionel enthusiast, collector, and operator.
I'm Ron Stock, a retired librarian, railroad buff, and HO gauge modeler, and enjoys trains.
RIP track, RIP, repair in place.
That is right.
I never knew that. I just found that out recently. For all the years of the railroad I worked with, I never knew what RIP meant.
Yeah. Well, I was figuring out, I found out after, I guess I was about 10, 11 years old, 12 years old, and I saw, and it says, looking for all the headstones.
Yep.
And one of the workers there, he just sat there and laughed. He says, well, yeah, that's true with some of the pieces we get in.
Right.
But it says repair in place. That's what it means. So that's when I found out. But anyway, how's everybody feeling?
Great.
Great.
And
Yeah,
You want to start us off?
Yeah, I missed last month because I went to Buffalo, New York on the late Shore Limited. It was 2 hours late going and 3 hours late coming back.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Shuffle off to Buffalo.
Yep. Yeah.
That sounds like a real shuffle.
That was due for the majority due to freight interference. Although coming back in Toledo, we had engine failure and they had to swap out, put a new engine on. And I'm sitting there sleeping, and I feel the train going backwards, forwards, jerk, jerk. Oh, they must be changing the locomotive out. And they were. So, yeah, it was an interesting trip. I was fortunate enough to be on my way there to have somebody who was on their way to Buffalo. We were late, and she goes, I'm never taking Amtrak again. I'm supposed to be at work. And I'm thinking, why in God's name would you, A, go to work on a day you're taking the train, and B, take Amtrak if you want to be to work on time? And coming back, I had the same thing, except it was a Hispanic woman who was on her phone most of the time calling people, telling them she was going to be late. And then when she stopped doing that, she was playing cucaracha music out of her cell phone as loud as she possibly could. And I have to say, I like riding Amtrak. I went coach again. I can't justify the expense of a roomette for a short trip. But, going to Buffalo, it isn't so bad. The train's relatively clean. But coming out of New York and then getting to Buffalo, it's already been going for a ways. By the time it gets to Chicago, the train is filthy. I mean, filthy. The people are such pigs. They have to lock up half the restrooms because of course, big sign, don't flush stuff down the toilet, and they do. Just really, they need a better quality of passenger on Amtrak.
That would probably help.
Yeah, it would. But yeah, it wasn't bad,
That's a good. Well, have they? They've always been talking about it for the last 30 years, 40 years. Is the old Buffalo station still there?
It's still there, and they had a developer, this guy with a track record from Toronto, had come in. The station itself is owned by a restoration, like a group that wants to restore the station, historic preservation group. And they were approached by a developer from Toronto who had a good track record for doing rehabs, and then they pulled the rug out from underneath them and decided they didn't want to do his plan. Now, the biggest problem with the station is it's in a destitute neighborhood. It's on the outskirts it's not in downtown. It's in an old Polish neighborhood that's changed racially, and it's not really anywhere, And there's been talk about them doing all kinds of wonderful things there. They were going to put in a hotel, a business conference center. They were going to actually start having Amtrak go to the station and stop there. There's a big thing going on now. If you go to Buffalo, you can't go to Niagara Falls from Buffalo on that same train. They have a different train that leaves from a different station. In Buffalo, the train stops in Depew and then continues on to New York City. It's on the old New York Central main line. The Exchange Street station is in downtown Buffalo, and it's in the middle of like roadways, and it's like hard to get to, can't find it. That's the station that goes to Niagara Falls. Well, the ceiling on it collapsed not too long ago, and they're trying to decide if they want to build a new station or if they want to shift the trains to Central Station, which would make sense because then all the trains would be in a focused location. And they really haven't decided what to do. It looks like they're going to rehab or build a new Exchange Street station somewhere. But the old station languages, it's still used quite a bit for special events. They have what's the name? There's a special day that the Polish people run around and squirt water each other and hit each other with pussy willows.
I mean, like Pulaski Day?
Yeah, it's sort of like, it's a special day. It's like, I forget the name of it. And here I am Polish and I can't remember, but they have they have it every year. It's a big deal. They have train shows there all the time, model and swap meets and stuff. So.
Well, then they actually cleaned up the inside.
Oh, they did. Yeah, they did. They put in new windows. They did quite a bit of restoration work in terms of securing the station from the elements. But that's just the central part of the station itself. There's huge wings on either side from Railway Express, the post office, offices for the railroad, and those buildings are a mess. They're open to the elements.
That's a shame.
I should post some pictures because I went there one year and took photos around the station, not inside.
I think I heard somewhere that before the architect came and did Cincinnati, he did Buffalo Station.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it
It's
was
the same architect.
Yeah, and the sad part about it was when it was done, the country went into depression.
Yeah.
But it did serve the city well for a long time. But like I said, the neighborhood has really gone downhill, and I think part of the idea behind restoring the station would be to bring more vitality into the neighborhood. They're talking about building new housing there and everything because there's a lot of vacant lots.
So a lot of buildings have been torn down.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Sort of like Detroit was.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, I guess the Detroit station's, still there too.
Yeah.
You're trying to do something with that. But yeah, these big old city stations are tough, especially if they're no longer functioning as railroad stations. They're not really focal points.
Yeah, I guess Cincinnati, well, Grand Central Terminal is one of the few that still survive.
Yeah, Cincinnati.
Well,
I guess that since Amtrak has a station near Cincinnati Station, but now it's a museum of some kind of
Yeah, well,
industry.
they had built the River Road Station
Okay.
to take the place. They closed CUT down completely.
Yeah.
And then Skilkin in the late 70s, 79, 80, they tried to make a entertainment place out
Right.
of it, like they were doing up in Indianapolis.
Right.
And then he got flushed out, and actually the city museums took over. So now it's got the historic, his natural history museum in there and such. But the Cincinnati Railroad Club meets there, and they meet up in the old control tower.
Oh, right.
And beautiful view, looking out the back if you want to do some train watching. And they
The over the Rhine neighborhood around the station was really bad. It was really destitute. Well, that's hot real estate now.
yeah.
People have bought into it. I guess Cincinnati's on the rebound.
Oh, big time. And the thing is, they discovered structural problems a couple of years ago. And so it's been actually shut down. A lot of stuff moved out. And they're doing structural repairs.
Mhm.
In fact, the Cincinnati Railroad Club, of which I'm a member, lucky, and I got the latest news, and they're figuring within 2 years.
Okay.
And they've already asked them if they wanted some improvements put onto it before they finish the structural work.
Well, speaking, let me segue into another railroad station thing. Let me see, I've got the article here. Somebody else can chime in while I'm looking for my.
While I
Notes
was
here.
on the computer the other day, someone was kind enough to share with me a Union Pacific news release. Union Pacific has put into service their 16th commemorative engine, and it is the spirit of Union Pacific. It is it's an homage to a B-17 that was purchased during World War II through war bonds by Union Pacific employees. It's in a paint scheme that honors each of the 5 military services. And it also honors the POWs and MIAs. The rear end of the hood bears the POW MIA flag and the wording, you are not forgotten. It starts out in Air Force silver on the nose with the blue slash, reminiscent of the old Strategic Air Command, a diagonal slash, and flowing handwritten style script, Spirit of Union Pacific, followed by the
Well, that's the way it was written actually on the airplane.
yes, and then followed by the orange, white, and blue diagonal stripe of the Coast Guard, and then a large dark gray section with a flowing American flag, and then followed by a camouflage section for the Army and the Marine Corps. So all 5 branches are recognized. I'm sorry, the gray section is Navy battleship gray. Forgive me, Brian. The B-17 was, as I said, purchased by war bonds raised in 1943 from UP, Union Pacific employees. It was assigned to the 571st Bomber Squadron. It was unfortunately shot down on its fifth mission on an airstrike against Munster, Germany. It doesn't say anything about the fate of the crew. But it's a beautiful engine. Unfortunately, by the time we get around to taping the show, its last public appearance will be on the 13th of November in Cheyenne, Wyoming at the Cheyenne Depot Museum, and then I presume it will go into general road service.
No, they're gonna continue sending it to other cities. If you look at the list, it's not that long
No,
on the cities that they're doing in.
you're right. It says details for additional dates and locations still to come. But I mean, it's a beautiful engine. Brian, take a quick look at that. Tell me what kind of engine it is.
SD70.
Okay.
The SD70 AC M243.
Well, we'll look that up and we'll put it up on
The
our
latest.
Facebook
Big honking
page.
diesel.
It's a big engine.
Yeah, I actually got the story on that from John Flynn.
Okay.
You remember him back in the day? He was a member of the.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, the guy that ran away to Kansas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it in the email from him.
So I found my thing here. New Lenox Historical Society launches petition drive to save train station. The old Rock Island depot in New Lenox is under threat of being torn down. Built in 1900, brick depot. The city of the village of New Lenox has decided that rather than a train station, they'd rather have a CVS pharmacy there. And they're in the process of building a shopping plaza at where the train station stands, and in the land by it. And with the money that they're going to get from CVS purchasing the property, they're going to build a new station. But they're not going to build a new station right away. They're going to tear down the station and put a trailer in for the pleasure of the commuters that ride the Metro Rock Island line out of New Lenox. So the Historical Society there has decided, well, first the mayor told them, oh yeah, we're going to save this train station and we're going to make it part of the development. And then I guess 2 years ago they attempted to have the building landmarked. Will County attempted to have the building landmarked, and Metro turned them down, told them, no, you can't do that. So then I guess the city approached Metro about the station, and when they told Metro that the station was not a landmark, Metro says, according to the mayor, get rid of it. So I suppose they're looking at, having to send people in there once every year to clean the place or whatever. And it's got to be a terrible expense. So they got to pay for heating. Although there's no more ticket agent there, they still have to heat the station in the winter. So the Historical Society is trying to save it, and I wish them the best of luck, because buildings that are not landmarked rarely can resist the idea of being torn down when the village burghers decide that the best thing there would be a piece of a business that pays taxes. So we shall see. But they were kind of blindsided because they were told that the station was going to be part of the development, and then the mayor turned around and said, well, what parts of the station do you want after we tear it down? And they were like, what? you tear it down? So we shall see.
There was a BP station right on the corner there.
Gone.
Yeah, it's gone. And it's leveled. Now you got to remember that the mayor out in New Lenox, not New Lenox. Yeah. I'm not sure if it was the mayor of New Lenox or the mayor of Frankfort told the people not to buy gas in his town because the gas was too high. And that was just about a year before the gas station got knocked down.
Told them not to buy it in New Lenox, or
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, there's some kind of stinky stuff going on here. I'm telling you, this is not typical political stuff. Not
You know,
on the
it's
up and
it's
up.
not a fancy station, but
Right.
I mean, to lose any station.
Well, they've essentially torn down everything but the station around there in preparation for the work that they're going to do. The station can't be moved. It doesn't have a full basement, so it'd be impossible for them to get what they need to get underneath to support it and jack it up. And there's no plan. There's nothing in the works. No plan for moving the station, which would be an awesome expense. I'm sure the village doesn't want to do that. So Metro must approve the demolition. So my president of our Blackhawk chapter is also on the advisory board at Metro, and he plans on making a pitch to Metro about, no, don't agree to this. Bad idea. But knowing Metro, I don't see them suddenly becoming interested in historic preservation.
Well, they've been taking away all the station agents slowly but
Right,
surely.
right.
So.
Oh, but yeah, and we got a new station on 115th Street. Yeah, it's a bus shelter that'll fit at least 2 people. So if you combine that with the bus station across the tracks on the inbound track, that'll fit about 10 people. 12 commuters can actually stay warm in the winter.
If the wind's blowing from the right direction.
Yeah, wind blowing from the right direction. Yeah, it's humorous. Although Metro quote unquote plans to do something there, we're going to give you something.
Well, if you happen to take the train from Union Station to St. Louis and you are unfortunate enough to have to get on in Summit, there is a bus shelter, and if you're there on a cold, foggy morning, you're either going to look like Frosty or Jack Frost.
There was talk of them building a station there. In most cases, the municipalities have to come up with the majority of the money. Metro doesn't have any money for station.
What are the 2 things that politicians do really well? Talk and lie.
At the same time.
Yes.
Sometimes.
You know they're lying because their lips are moving. But anyway.
Anyhow.
Okay, that's our jabs for the day.
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
No, it is not. Please.
No, that just wraps up the first segment.
We're just getting warmed up.
That's the first quarter hour.
Yeah. Hey, the Sumitomo lost the contract for the new cars. The date passed.
Yeah.
And they lost it. So now Siemens is coming out, and they're building cars for California, but they're not double deckers. They're single level cars. And there's talk that they're going to try to piggyback the Midwest rail cars onto that order. So Sumitomo, who tried to build a double-decker car to Amtrak specifications with doors on the end sills rather than the center, which completely changed the frame of the car, and they couldn't meet the crash test requirements. Now there's single-level cars in the picture. Surprise, surprise. So I imagine if Sumitomo had been given a single-level car order, they could have done it without any problem. And from what I understand, the Rochelle factory is basically empty. They have a skeleton staff there. They're trying to get new bids for different work, including freight cars, but nothing yet. So Illinois spent a small fortune getting that factory here for Metra, and now it's not doing anything.
Oh, maybe it'll go to Indiana, Wisconsin,
Yeah,
or,
right.
or Missouri.
Yeah, right. Yeah, all those governors in those commercials for Governor Rauner.
I couldn't-
Yeah, we got your business. Thanks to Mike Madigan. Yeah. That's right. We have more low-paying jobs than Illinois does. All right, stop it, Dave.
Come on.
Be nice.
Can I interest you in a nice brie to go with that wine?
Very good.
I prefer
That was
a
good.
Merlot, please. I would like some Merlot.
Okay, well, I got one to go along with what you were talking about. Create. Remember that?
Yeah, Create.
Create backers seek $160 million grant. It turns out that the public and private partners of Create program to clear Chicago of rail congestion, but does not count as in laying track. Has applied for $160 million in federal funding to eliminate what they call one of the most complex and congested segments of railroad in North America. The Create partners submitted an infrastructure for rebuilding grant to the U.S. Department of Transportation seeking funds to reconfigure the notoriously clogged 75th Street corridor and related project known as the Argo Connections. 75th Street corridor is a primary east-west route through the Chicago terminal and only one with the potential to add significant capacity, says Create officials. As many as 90 freight trains, 30 Metra commuter trains, and 2 Amtrak trains use the corridor each day. Among the improvements would be a rail flyover, would be built, and 3 rail-to-rail crossings would be eliminated. According to the application, the necessary train improvements to the junctions must currently cross paths, thus allowing only a single train to pass at any given time. The crossings thus become choke points, causing delays that have negative consequences throughout the entire region and country. Boy, through the country.
Through the country. Wow.
The 75th Street project comprises a network of 4 closely related individual segments. Forest Hill flyover, 71st Street grade separation, Belt Junction, and 80th Street Junction replacement, and the Metro Rock Island connection. This grant request will fully fund the flyover and grade separation for final design, utility relocation, and construction. The grant request will also add capacity to Argo needed to feed additional traffic to the east-west corridor. The infrastructure improvements will double corridor capacity, reduce travel time, expand railroad capacity through the Chicago terminal, thus providing benefits on a national scale, the officials say. If the fact the program is to solve national and regional problems, when you talk about the freight industry, Chicago's the problem, and 75th Street is the biggest of the Chicago problems, says Randy Blankenhorn of Illinois Department of Transportation Secretary. The 75th Street corridor handles almost 2 million freight cars annually. Upon completion, the corridor will accommodate more than 4 million freight cars annually. These movements are slowed by the current conflict points and capacity limitations, particularly at the Belt Junction choke point where all rail traffic must share 2 tracks. The project will double capacity by reconfiguring the Belt Railway main line, laying new track, creating flyover tracks at 3 key locations. The total budget for the 75th Street corridor is $473.7 million. Federal funding will comprise 35% of the budget. Several Class 1 railroads and Amtrak have committed $111.4 million in private funding. An additional $202.4 million has been committed from non-federal sources, including $20 million from Metra, according to Create.
Now, the only Metro trains that run through there are Southwest service, right?
Right.
And how many trains did they say go through there? Commuter trains? They say 30?
30.
There's 30 trains on the Southwest.
Both ways.
Both ways.
It's got to be both ways.
So 15 inbound and
round
15
trips.
outbound.
Yeah, that's it.
and the midday service on the Southwest is in danger of being cut because Metro's cutting trains. So maybe Metro's going to solve the problem by just eliminating Southwest service altogether. And what's Amtrak's stake in this? Do they run anything?
Yeah, and they got 2 trains that run down there.
Okay. I know they stand to gain if they get the Southwest service trains out of Union Station and over to LaSalle Street.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know what their stake was in that. I think they lost out on the last grant cycle for the same project, so they must be resubmitting it.
Yeah, they are, because now they've got a lot of private capital coming in.
Oh, okay.
See, that's what one of the big things is get the private capital. In that case, it is time for station identification.
And you are listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, November the 13th, the year 2017. And this is 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and Jack Frost 88.1 WXMS Harwood Heights, Illinois. And now, friends, back to Chicago Junction and our panel.
Hey, Ron.
Okay. I brought with me several different things. The first is a book that I've seen several times through some of the train magazines, and it just recently came out, I would say within the last month. It's called The Route of the Chiefs, and it's done by Greg Stout, who has done some other route books. And the ones that he did were the Route of the Eagles, which was 1995, and then Route of the Rockets, which was 1997. And he's also written some other books, 21. He is retired, and he included 8 years as in the automotive industry, and he also had 12 years in public education. And he was in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. The first thing I noticed, of course, when they advertised the book is the cover, and I think the cover is like really fantastic, especially if you're a Santa Fe route person or a modeler. And mostly he talks about the Super Chief and El Capitan. But he also talks about Chief, and he has some articles about fast mail with Santa Fe, which was quite interesting, at least for me, because the fast mail trains were all quite a mixture of different types of equipment on it, from the heavyweights to it wasn't your typical Santa Fe streamline train that you would recognize. He also talks about Tucson, Kansas City, the Chicagoan, which were some of the Texas Chief, Grand Canyon, and the nice thing is if you're a model, either a modeler or just a Santa Fe fan, he does have a section. The last appendixes are pretty cool. They have the streamlined passenger fleet for Santa Fe, so he has photographs of that if you want to make sure that your trains are your model trains are similar to the ones that actually ran. And he has the Power, which has all the locomotive fleet. And basically, he starts from about the 40s and runs it up to probably a little bit after, just before Amtrak began. So that would be mid-70s, maybe slightly later than that. And so it's a beautiful book. It's the book sells. Original price of the book is $75. I ended up getting it at a bookshop, and that's why I ended up ordering or buying it. It was for $57. So I thought that was a pretty good discount for a really nice book. And so it'd make a great Christmas gift for a modeler or for a railroad fan, especially one of the Santa Fe. Which I always found interesting because my dad, originally when I was a kid, he built a American Flyer layout, and I had a Santa Fe passenger train on it, so that was always kind of cool. The other thing that I brought with me, and I'll do some of the structures. I'll let somebody else talk after this. But last month I had the trailer for mobile home trailer for which was a barbecue one. This one is called a double-decker trailer. While it's not quite caboose-esque, it sort of looks caboose-esque in that half the trailer is in a second story, and it's done in a pink color. It's nicely decorated with it's pink stripes on sort of beige color, and they have a picnic bench out there and a propane tank and some other things, and so anyhow, it's really nicely decorated. It's by Woodland Scenic, and it's already prepackaged land structure, so you don't have to do a lot of work with it. It comes in HO style. It also comes in Lionel style, and it may come in S style. And it's very nice. Woodland does really good structures. They probably have it in N too, because Woodland does. It seems to cross over in all the gauges. So anyway. Very good.
Don't forget, it's got 2 tires laying on the roof.
Yes, it does have 2 tires. Thank you for pointing that out. It does have a TV antenna, but who knows what kind of? Probably a black and white TV.
Yeah, got a propane tank on the side there.
Yeah, on the side, and they also look like they have 2 in the front by the hitch.
Oh yeah.
Looks like he does car repairs out back.
Yeah, probably. I'm guessing
That's
that
possible,
way.
or it could be making some sort of a drug that hillbillies like.
Well, my hope is that when I put my other trailer out there, then it should attract some tornadoes to hit it.
Thought you say it's going to attract some lowlifes.
Well, that maybe too. The hobo, have a couple of hobo markings on there.
It's a shame it's not an O gauge because they got homies that'd match.
Oh, I think it probably is an O gauge. I'm gonna guess.
One of the
yeah.
Well, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
You said Lionel.
Yeah. Right.
It's O.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I've seen ads for the O gauge. One of the gentlemen at the club, I don't know where he came up with it, but it's a O gauge hotshot trailer with the side lift panels that say Miller Draft, and he's got 5 or 6 slightly overfed men and women standing around with beer glasses in their hand next to the beer trailer. It just adds a touch of class to the diorama. Touch of reality. I happen to have been in the Blackwell branch of the Chicago Public Library, and on the rack was a book, Images of Rail Chicago Trolleys. Well, I had to pick it up, and it took me about an hour and a half looking at all the pictures, because I think there's probably only 6 or 7 pages of actual script in the entire book. But, it brought back a lot of memories, buses that I rode as a kid, street corners that I know, so I can compare what they were in the photos to what they are now. And then I went on the shelf in the basement, and I found 2 Corgi trolleys. One is a Brill trolley in Chicago Surface Line livery, and the other is a PCC Streamliner, also in Chicago Surface Line livery. And in the book identifies this as the Type A prototype. And there's a photo of it in the shop being built. It's just all bare metal, no paint on it, and right below that picture is a picture of it in the paint job out on a Chicago street. It's really neat. They actually show the A and the B prototype. They don't show the C prototype. Thank God the A prototype won, because the B had this really strange air intake vent above the front windows. It looked like somebody snatched the attic vent off of a house and slapped it on the bus. But these two Corgi models are really nice. They happen to be O scale. The Brill is 1:48. The PCC is 1:50, and I know that's a hair larger than O scale, but they both fit the old Lionel 027 track perfectly. And if I put the Department 56 Art Institute of Chicago out, and I put the PCC Streamliner in front of it, you could imagine yourself on Michigan Avenue in the 50s or the 60s, with absolutely no trouble at all.
Yeah, the book itself is done by Arcadia Publishing, and we actually interviewed Cynthia, who did the CNWI book with Arcadia. Arcadia is an interesting company. If you're an author, you can come to them with a proposal. They have a different series of books. They do a lot of history things, and their Images of the Rails is one of them. So you come to them with a proposal, and what you do is you provide the text and the photographs, and they essentially publish the book. As the authors say, like I did one for our local historical society, you can buy it at a discount from them and then charge the cover price for it and make money that way. And it was a big money maker for our historical society. And the same with the authors. The authors get them at a discount, and they can sell them themselves and make a small profit on it. So,
well, yeah, I mean that whole thing is a very interesting series. I've got one like on the San Diego and Arizona Railway, basically because I belong to the PSRMA, Pacific Southwest Railway Museum, and the museum is actually in Campo. I mean, they have all the equipment out there, and that's where they run trains out of. But they had, they was able to get some of the stuff, and once they go into the Goat Canyon and such. And then there was another one actually on the Teterboro Airport in New Jersey.
okay.
And because one of its pilots was Arthur Godfrey. He kept flying.
Hawaii.
And he actually wrote a song in the 60s about Teterboro Airport. And you can find it. It's online on YouTube. And because they didn't like him when he buzzed the airport.
The photo reproduction in the book is good. I mean, it's sort of a what you see is what you get. If the publisher comes to them with nice photographs, they do an excellent job of reproducing them. They have
yes, they do.
It's like a minimum of 300 dots per inch on the photo. They give you specifications for your photos. I've seen books where the photos are not that good, but if you come to them with decent photos, you're going to get a great product out of it. And I don't know where this guy. I think I recognize the author's name, David Sadowski, and I'm sure he got a lot of these. A lot of them from his collection. I see.
Every photo is credited from, to who took it or what collection donated it. The thing that's really surprised me about the book, I knew there had been horse-drawn trolleys and streetcars. I didn't realize we had traction trolleys here in Chicago for a while.
Talking about the cable cars.
Yeah.
Chicago had the largest cable car system in the United States. We predated San Francisco.
The thing that surprised me, though, is there are photographs in here of two RPO trolleys that operated here in Chicago. Two different streetcar companies actually operated them. But, so...
And there's one out in the rail museum the trolley museum out west. in the western suburbs.
Oh, the one in Paris?
No.
Fox
it's
River Valley.
Fox River
Trolley.
Valley.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, they've got the one at the top there in
Yeah,
that photo
the one
is in
that-
their collection.
The one that belonged to the Chicago and Proviso Street Railroad.
Yeah.
Although the photograph here says Chicago Union Traction. But
Yeah, the companies change their names
there's
so often.
pictures of trolleys on Michigan Avenue. And the Roseland Theater is at 113th in Michigan. It's not there any longer. But it was when I was a young police officer in Roseland. And, there's one point in here that says the trolleys used to run parallel to the IC tracks. And I have seen pictures of a trolley at about 129th. And, just basically where the bridge goes up over the expressway on the Bishop Ford. And,
Well, they ran parallel on the South Chicago district too, along Exchange.
You're going to have to tell me this because, remember, I did not grow up here. I'm here only virtue of the U.S. Navy.
yeah, didn't you operate on the Illinois Central, on the Metro Electric on the old?
Yeah, I did. But what I'm saying, when you're talking about...
Predates you. Okay.
He don't know.
Hey. He
Hey,
was
Brian
riding
don't know.
trains elsewhere.
If you want to ask me about Joycey, that's okay. We can do that.
Your Electroliner that you keep talking about is the Freedom Train?
No.
Yes. Up in Pennsylvania is the Freedom Train? Or the Freedom Express?
Red
There's
Arrow.
a picture, Red Arrow. There's a picture of it in here.
It's... When it went to the Norristown high-speed line in Pennsylvania in 1963, when it was sold after they bought it from the North Shore, they became Liberty Liners.
Well, that's freedom.
And one was called Valley Forge and the other one was called Independence Hall.
Now, speaking of model trains, I know you're going to want to get your wallet out for this one. Neil Young is selling his massive model train collection.
And Richard Kuhn just finished selling. He had 4 separate auctions selling off the rest of his equipment.
Wow.
What gauge is Neil?
Lionel gauge, mostly.
Yeah, as predicted, some of the trains are predicted to go for up to $9,000 a piece.
Wow.
While his cars are estimated at $20,000 to $200,000 to $300,000. He started collecting model trains in the 90s as he shared activity with his son who had cerebral palsy. A portion of the proceeds from the auction will go towards the Bridge School in California, which serves children with severe speech and physical impairments.
Yep, see it.
Auctioning off over 230 of his collector. He's a collector of cars and model trains, but he's selling off his trains and a few of his cars in Los Angeles on December the 9th. So book your flight now, or take Amtrak.
Yeah.
He was also known to autograph some of the trains in his collection because I've seen a couple of them. He was actually the driving force behind Lion Roar, that Lionel that was responsible for the quantum leap in sound quality.
Right.
Well, he did the sound and he also did the TMCC. He was the electronic arm.
Now he took over after Fun Dimensions. Is that it?
No, well, basically Fun Dimensions, yeah, General Mills. Richard Kuhn did.
Okay.
He purchased it after that, and he actually ran it for over 10 years. And by that time, he was friends with Neil Young and bought him in. And Neil Young actually owned 10%. And then he knew he wanted to get out, and he got together the people of Wellspring to come in.
Ron's got some more stuff too.
Yeah. Go to Menards.
Menards.
Menards has quite a collection of buildings, and theirs have at least a lot more people around them compared to the the trailer, which has none. They have two different designs. They have the Red Owl next to a J.R. Watkins, which is probably, I would say, more a 40s, 50s setting type of structures, maybe into the 30s. And nicely decorated. There's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 8 people on the in the front of the structure, including one guy doing a mail and 2 dogs, and they even got a pony that goes up and down. The other on the second floor, everybody will enjoy this. That's an attorney of law office, in which 3 guys are up on the balcony along with a plant. With
Do
a
we
nice-
do we cheat him and how?
I'm looking in the background for sharks.
No, they're wearing shark skin suits.
Very good. So, and then it's kind of neat. On the side, they have Pepsi Cola ad, and then on the back, they have Watkins vanilla mix and Kellogg cornflakes. And on the other side, they have J.K. Watkins Bakery. So, a sign advertising the store that's there.
You know why a shark won't attack a lawyer in the water? Professional courtesy.
Boom.
That's excellent.
Hold the rim shots.
Bum ba dum bum bum.
And then the other one that I have is more, and they're all about roughly around $60 to $70 at Menards. The other one that I have is a Morton salt, which Morton has a big quarry off the Kennedy where they salt mine, and basically the whole Great Lakes is underneath the Great Lakes is all one big salt deposit. So this one
They have a big quarry at North Avenue just off the expressway. It used to be a car dealership.
Okay.
I believe we have a phone call.
Okay,
What?
great.
Yes. Hello, sir. Are you with us?
You usually call me sir. I'm a non-com like you were. Hey, it's Jack Ryan, gang. How y'all doing?
Good.
Yeah, who all's there?
Where's
The
Dave?
usual suspects.
Yeah, Curly, Larry, Moe, and Shemp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought I'd be with you tonight, but they don't want me driving right now, and didn't have transportation, so... Anyway, like I'm the least knowledgeable person on the panel anyway, so you guys do so well. I'm amazed. By the way, folks, anybody, to all of our listeners, there's more brain power for railroads right there than you'll find anywhere. Don't you think so?
Especially at CSX. They're
Being modest,
getting rid of
too,
all
now.
their brain power.
So anyway, how's things going?
Good.
Good.
Anything new?
Yeah, New Jersey, New York, New Mexico.
New Caledonia. New Britain.
Yeah. Where's old Caledonia, by the way, or old what's the place out here where your Kevin, where your train is? It's New.
New Lenox.
Yeah, where's old Lennox? Anyway,
Searching for a new station.
Yeah.
well, let me get you back to this precious airtime, okay?
Thanks for calling, Jack.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Jack.
You
By the
take
way,
care.
You coming for the Christmas party?
Thanks for your service, Brian.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you next month.
Well,
Oh, I think we just got pinged by the sonar.
I guess that's what happens when you hang up on us. He hung up on us.
Yes, he did.
Dang.
All right.
Oh, ping them one time.
Hey, GE is considering exiting the railroad business.
That's rumor.
Yep, it seems that General Electric is looking to sell off some of its transportation and healthcare technology related businesses, according to multiple reports. The Wall Street Journal says the company is looking for a way to leave the railroad business, citing people familiar with the matter. So who knows? And now
I mean, basically, they're looking at, doing what GM did.
right.
And the thing is, their technology they've given overseas, so
Well-
that, they've cut down on their making.
Well, they built that brand new factory in India. They've got the one plant in Texas, and they've been winding down.
And they're working out actually one in Germany.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I guess they're winding down in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Erie, PA is.
They're going to still use that for when they finally come up with some new ideas.
Well, it looks like they don't want to come up with new ideas.
Well,
So I think Erie's gone. You know, whoever buys the
Yeah.
business, if it comes up for sale, is not going to keep Erie, PA.
Well, they still got their research and laboratories there.
Right, but that's easily packed up
Yeah.
in boxes and moved.
Everybody's doing it. Yeah.
So you may see Indian GE locomotives on the on the horizon, or German.
Yeah, in the U.S.
Yeah, in the U.S., right.
Okay, well, we're coming down with a lot. We were talking books. A new book came out a few months ago, earlier this year, called The Dining Car, written by Arthur Eric Peterson. This is his second book. And for those who would, it's an interesting book because, you know, it's nothing, it's not like Murder on the Orient Express or anything, but it's about a gentleman who writes food articles and such, and he lives, and he has his own private railway car he travels around in. And he's got a crew on board, and he holds parties on his car, and he picks up a bartender after he stopped a fight at a ski lodge, and they decide to blame him. And he hired him on to work the train. But it's interesting. The author was inspired by a person who actually had his own railway car. The Lucius Beebe and Charles Clegg. And Charles Clegg was an author that worked society pages and such, or he was a photographer. And Lucius Beebe was the writer. Put out some wonderful books. They were some of the first rail authors.
And they were early in
And
photography.
photography. In fact, before Charles Clegg and Beebe got together and became partners, Beebe was the advisor to Union Pacific,
Okay.
the movie Union Pacific in 1939. And
He's the kind of one who was credited for popularizing the wedge shot
yeah,
in railroading. People don't know that's kind of
Charles Clegg, yeah.
right,
Yeah, so this way they could get to see the locomotive,
right,
get in the right angle.
right. Sort of an angle that allows the train to go off into the distance, into the vanishing point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, I actually rode in the last car that they owned together, the Virginia City. It's now owned by a group in San Francisco, and they keep the car restored beautifully and keep it running.
Yeah. I got a couple quick items if you're done.
Yeah, well, I was going to end up with.
Yeah.
Well, you go ahead.
Oh,
and get
just
mine.
quickly, the Great Lakes Basin Transportation is dead. To the joy of many people living out in the suburbs. That was the Belt Railroad that was proposed through the western part of the state into Indiana, and they never isn't going to happen. And the Southern Railroad is suing its tie supplier for defective ties. It was providing them with ties that were not soaked in creosote but soaked in motor oil to make it look like they were soaked in creosote, and they started deteriorating rapidly. So they're being sued. I guess there was over 1 million rail ties that this company provided for them. So, okay.
Interesting. Well, we got the holiday season coming.
Woohoo!
So there'll be different displays going on and different Christmas trains running.
Right.
Like at the Mid-Continent Railway Museum in North Freedom, Wisconsin. They're going to run their Santa Expresses on the 25th and 26th of November. And that's it. Then they won't run trains again until February 10th and 11th, when they'll run their famous snow train. Hopefully it'll snow this year.
lot of people are not wishing for that, Brian.
I know that. I am, though. I have my own reasons. Starting the 24th, good old Black Friday, Chicago Botanic Garden will be opening up the Wonderland Express. And it'll be running after the New Year's. And if you haven't seen it, you should go. Wonderful large-scale layout. Indoors, 12 trains running. And the whole scenery is of buildings of Chicago. And very nice to see. Okay. North Judson, Indiana. It runs Circus Santa trains. And they'll be running tickets for adults are $15, $13 for kids, 6 to 15, $9 for 1 to 3, and kids under 1 are free.
Under one.
Under 1. Okay, you buy 6 tickets or more, you get $2 off per ticket.
You get a 1-year-old. Free.
You get
And take one home.
Yes. But they'll be running the 16th, the 9th, and the 2nd of December. Okay. Okay, the Fox River Trolley Museum. We were talking about them.
Yep.
Yeah, tickets will not be actually sold at it. They want you to use their website to buy the tickets. And their Polar Express will run Saturdays, November 25th, December 2nd, 9th, and 16th. And Sundays, November 19th, 26th, December 3rd, 10th, and 17th. And then we have, the East Troy Trolley Museum up in Wisconsin on November's 26th, 5th, 26th, December's 2nd, 3rd, 9th and 10th, and 16th and 17th. There'll be 5 trains per day, starting at 9 a.m. and the last train leaves at 3 p.m. The Heston Steam Museum will be running trains. The Candy Cane Express. And they'll be running on the first 2 weekends of December. And they'll be selling hot chocolate, cookies, and if you care to bring a toy unwrapped, you can put it in the box, you get a free train ticket. And the toys go to Toys for Tots, U.S. Marine Corps. We have the Holiday Magic that's going to be at the Brookfield Zoo. They've had the magic lights. It'll be the Saturday, Sunday, December 2nd and 3rd, 9th and 10th, 16th and 17th, and then Tuesday through Sunday, the 26th to the 31st, at the Brookfield Zoo, starting at 10 a.m. and going to 9 p.m., and actually the festivities with the lights and all start at 4 p.m. And we stop for station identification.
You're listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norridge, Illinois.
Thank you, John. This one, they're sold out, but I want to mention it. Some people would like to go to take a small trip to Michigan, to Owasso, to see the Polar Express. Pierre Marquette 1225, all painted up with Polar Express. They actually run 22 trains starting November 17th. And they go all the way to Sunday, December 17th. And they do Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and running 2 trains each day. But they have 22 trains sold out. All trains sold out. But if you want to see some good action with steam, that's the place to go. They start selling tickets at the end of July. And usually before the end of actually the beginning of September, they're sold out before Labor Day.
Speaking of the Polar Express, if you are lucky enough to get your hands on the Lionel Ready to Run calendar, they are offering the Polar Express Boy Heroes House. That's the first boy that gets picked up by the train. It includes the boy in his pajamas and slippers and the snowman on the front lawn. So if you have a Polar Express, this is one of the new accessories to that set. And if you're looking for a unique place to have your picture of your children with Santa, please come out to the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club on either of the first 2 Saturdays in December. Bring your camera with you. There is no additional charge for the Santa photo on the back of the caboose up in the mezzanine. It's not really a caboose, but it looks really close. And there's no $40 per child mall tax for the photo.
Now that sounds good. I'm glad you're still keeping it going.
Yeah, they're continuing the tradition of stealing one of the workers from the diner and swearing him in as deputy U.S. Santa for those 2 days.
I got something here. A couple things.
Let's go.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Ed Ellis and Pacific Rail Holdings, but he's formed a new way to run short line railroads. That is, you park train cars in communities and then hold people hostage and move them if they pay you enough money. He did it in Chicago. He went over in the Goose Island area and parked a bunch of rail cars there and really upset a bunch of developers. And he said, sure, I'll move them if you give me money. And now he's doing it up in the Adirondacks. He's parked a bunch of tank cars up there, and he's telling the state of New York, well, sure, I'll be glad to move them if you pay me. So Ed Ellis is everybody's favorite neighbor these days. He can't make any money running railroads, but he sure can do it being a pirate.
Can't they revoke his
No.
company's charter?
No. He has fingers in every state, I think.
Yeah.
Pacific Holdings runs a lot of short lines.
Well, I know why the people in Evergreen Park are upset with CSX,
Yeah.
because about 3 weeks ago I was coming home from work and there was a CSX train parked facing northbound on the tracks at Sacramento, and I know, and I am prepared to testify in front of the Cook County Grand Jury under oath, that train did not move for 45 minutes.
Ooh.
It was so bad that when I called the second time, the 911 operator told me what grade crossing was open so I could get around it.
Yeah.
Because 119th Street was out for reconstruction. It had 115th and 111th block.
Right.
And the engine was about 100 yards south of 103rd Street. And it was just sitting there, and it even had, the headlight was even powered down.
So in other words, the crew probably died on hours of service.
You know,
and
I
they
didn't
just parked
think
it there.
that the crew might have gone dead. You're right.
They do that. You know, the dispatchers, as much as they try to get the crews in a spot where they can go on their hours of service, the only stipulation in that rule is if you are blocking and interlocking, or if you are blocking railroad crossings, you are allowed to continue on until you clear those crossings, or interlocking. But if they had no place to put the train, that's the other problem. It was going northbound. You know, who knows?
No, because going northbound, there's a grade crossing every 4 blocks until you
Right.
get north to 94th
Now, is this
Street.
the CSX line or the former Grand Trunk line?
Well, it was a CSX engine operating on the tracks, and Sacramento, I think, is the former Grand Trunk,
Yeah,
because Rockwell is BNOCT.
right. Well, CSX runs both lines now.
Yeah.
CN sold the Grand Trunk line to the CN. I mean, to the CSX. So they're both CSX lines now. Though that one, the former Grand Trunk line runs into an interlocking, so they may have been blocked there.
Well, I know the village of Evergreen Park is aggravated with them to the point that their big electric sign opposite City Hall says CSX complaint, and it gives 2 phone numbers. But they had 115th Street blocked and 111th Street blocked. I called 911, informed the police, and then asked to get kicked over to Fire Communications, because the firehouse for Mount Greenwood is at 111th and Albany. And I said, you know, reach out for engine 92, truck 45, and ambulance 17, and tell them they got to find a new way home, because the train ain't gonna genuflect and let them go.
Well, both Chicago and Evergreen Park have been on the federal government about this, and CSX continues to promise that they've solved the problem, which they haven't.
I wonder who their guardian politician is.
Yeah, I don't know. Got a couple things about rails to trails. the illegal taking of tourist railroads by trail people who think that, you know, the best thing in the world for tourism is trails, not trains. The Adirondack Rail Trail that was supposed to remove 34 miles of track between Lake Placid and Tupper Lake in favor of a multi-use trail has been held up by a judge. Yeah, that's a good thing. He ruled in favor of keeping the trains because of a number of things. I'm not going to go into them. Oh, I can highlight them: land ownership, historic preservation law, travel corridor questions, and economic review, none of which were done. Now, the nickel plate rail to trail is another story. There doesn't seem to be any guardian angels on the road for that. The towns of Noblesville and Fishers want to turn a portion of the nickel plate trail that was formerly operated by the who was it? The Indiana Transportation Museum, which also ran a fair train every year to the Indiana State Fair. Well, they want to pull out basically a slug of track in between the two sections of where that railroad runs. Now, this whole thing was precipitated by a group of disgruntled members at the museum who complained about the way the railroad was being run and financial malfeasance. Then the feds came in and found that the track was in bad shape, and so they embargoed the railroad and said they couldn't run any trains on it. Well, the mayors of these two towns took advantage of it and said, no, what we really need right now is to spend millions of dollars to rip up the railroad tracks and put a trail in, because everybody's going to like that a lot more. So that thing is still in the air. They did not run the train fair this year because of the track issues, and we will keep you posted.
No, actually, the feds, they did embargo it, but after they finished their inspection,
Yeah.
it was good for 10 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
No, but what it was is, no, there was no problems that you were talking about.
Okay.
But, you know, you have worn ties and such that will need replacing.
Right.
And they go, okay. And then, in fact, the feds told the mayors that.
Right.
They said, no, we're just going to rip it out.
Yeah. I know the Indiana Rail Museum has been trying to get state funding to help rehabilitate the tracks. And I don't know where the state stands on this. You know, I know that the mayors of Noblesville and
Well, there was we talked about it, I think, last month.
Last month.
yeah,
There's a town, and I don't have it written down, but there's a town that's offering to put up the rail museum. Everybody moves to
right,
that
yeah,
town.
movie. I saw that,
And so,
but well, they won't be running trains to the fair, will they?
no, they don't care about the people who are parking out.
Yeah. Well, there are people. This article is a pretty extensive article, and it talks about how people saying, "Well, I'll just drive. I never took the train anyways. I'll just drive." Well, they carry thousands of people to the train every year, to the
Yep.
fair every year. Anyway, that's it from me for tonight.
You have anything else?
15 years ago, maybe, 20th Century Railroad Club ran a charter up to Oshkosh. You know, a chartered Amtrak train that was full. I didn't see a single empty seat on that train. You know, and trying to drive to Oshkosh, you know, it's such an aggravation. You'd almost, learn to tolerate your mother-in-law. But I don't know why they don't run trains to more state fairs and
The cost of running excursion trains is prohibitive. Just in insurance alone.
See, we're talking the way it is now. Insurance, you're talking if for them to run 611, since the Norfolk Southern says they won't sponsor 611 no more, they have to try to run with Amtrak. That's a $400 million policy.
Yeah, Metro did the last two rail excursions, and they did it themselves, along with the
Yeah.
assistance of the owners of the locomotives.
Yeah, working with the 765 group. That's why that's how the train got here.
Well, I know Amtrak gets fat on that weekend of Galesburg train days because they get a whole lot more people riding the train those 2 days than would normally ride on a
Right.
weekend. I mean, the last time we went down there, they had to open the business class compartment to accommodate people,
Yeah,
and it was very comfortable.
it's difficult, like for organizations like the 20th Century Club or the National Railway Historical Society or the Railway and Locomotive Historical Society, to fund excursion trains. It's just beyond their abilities. There was this excursion that was canceled not too long ago because of lack of ticket sales.
Well, they because they didn't offer it soon enough.
Yeah.
Well, no, the first time 765 came,
Right,
and they were going to run a trip down to Galesburg,
right.
but they got here a month before the Galesburg trip.
Oh, I know what it was. It was a dining excursion that was supposed to go out to on the Southwest line, Metro Southwest line, using Iowa Pacific locomotives and a collection of rail cars, and it was a dining experience kind of thing. And they had contacted our NRHS chapter for car attendance, but they canceled it. I guess they didn't have any ticket sales for it. I guess people don't want to ride on a train and eat chicken. You know, it wasn't like you'd call a fine dining experience. You wouldn't get a choice of meals. It was okay. You get a chicken. And the volunteers they were looking for, they were going to have them work basically almost a 10-hour day serving meals, not just being, greeters on the car, but actually being waiters and waitresses. So it seemed like a dumb idea.
No, we didn't know. There was a trip that was run out of Cincinnati using the 2765. And they ran down to Russell and back, and they had a dining car,
Yeah.
the Gadsby Tavern, that was rebuilt and all, and they actually served meals on that. The people paid for the meals, and because I was working that trip as a waiter, and apparently there was a lot of libations on the second trip. The next day we ran to Indianapolis, and there was a few people with libations we were delayed.
Yeah.
And so he came in, this one guy, I mean, he just, out of everybody in the car, he just came to me. And he was a short fella, you know, Napoleon complex.
Oh, God.
And he would not leave me alone. I said, well, I will check it out, sir. I will see what it is. And then he started following me. And for 10 minutes, these guys saw me turn red.
But you didn't go old school conductor on him, did you?
I did not.
Yeah.
Old school conductor, you just take you and toss you out the door.
Well, the other guys, they were watching me. They're going, he's going to move. He's tipping the scales. And then one guy came and pulled the other guy and says, hey, and he actually sat in my area, and they told me, you go wait on that table. No, I said, this is my area. It says, if anything, the guy's going to give me a very good tip.
Did he?
Well, they wouldn't let me wait on him.
Ah,
I guess they wanted to make sure the food was in the stomach and not on him. Maybe. Anyway,
we're pulling into the station?
we are starting to pull into the station.
We're like the Late Shore Limited. We're running late today.
Yes, we are. But we had a really good session. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, the Galloping Ghost
Thank you.
called in.
Oh,
Yes, that
yes,
was a good thing.
The Galloping Ghost called in, so we got to make sure we say happy rails to you. I will sit down and try to figure out the song to go with the.
And have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's never too late to start your Christmas list.
And as our express comes into the station, we want to thank all of you for joining us on our journey through the wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and can be listened to on the web at www.windycityhometown.com, where you can listen to tonight's broadcast and all our past episodes, and also sample some of the other great programs that are being offered. I'm your announcer, Brian Ballou. Till next month, when we journey to Chicago Junction.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, November the 13th, the year 2017. Chicago Junction was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chicando. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Thursday, November the 9th, the year 2017. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening. And this is 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and Jack Frost 88.1 WXMS FM Harwood Heights, Illinois.